What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be reviewing The Crew 2. This has been a long time coming. We're going to be reviewing the story, gameplay, customization, and our final thoughts of the game. I know what you guys are thinking. What the hell is wrong with you? This game came out in like 2018. Yeah, it's been a while. It's just the simple fact is procrastination. But we're finally here for today to take a look at this game. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is going to be the story mode of the game. So we have single player and multiplayer. Now this is an open world game style, so there's lots of things to do. Right now we're showing some racing here, and that's one of the many things you can do in The Crew 2. Personally, I'm not a fan of the racing in The Crew 2, mostly because it's just such an arcade game compared to other games such as Forza games, for example. Like, this isn't a very simulation heavy game. There are a lot of realistic physics in this game, but for the most part they're not as realistic as some other games out there. This game offers a variety of different content and just things to do in general. We have racing right here. There's also different events you can do. There's some racing stuff you can do, stunts. Gives you new challenges to do. You can also partake in online events. You can also just cruise around with your friends online, and that's probably one of the biggest things about this game. Is just the map on this game is so huge that you can just cruise around. Just cruise around the entire US. It's pretty cool. I mean, I've not really played this game that much, to be honest with you, but I really want to start playing it more just because there's just so much to do. The races take a long time. Like, compared to most racing games, races only last about 4 to 5 minutes, but this race right here lasted about 12 minutes, I think, was my time. I crashed a bunch of times, but I'm not really good at racing. I do have to say, though, I think my favorite part of racing is that you can just drive up to the start line at the beginning of the race, which makes it a lot more fun and a lot more immersive that you're actually driving to the event instead of just teleporting you to the spawn like other games do. And it's also cool because after the race you keep driving essentially when you're getting all the results of the race. Like, instead of just on other games where you just pass the finish line, everything loads and the AI controls the car, you can just keep driving yourself. Alright, the next segment we're going to be talking about is customization. I think this is probably one of the game's strongest points, because it's got interior, exterior, and you can even change the appearance of your character, which is actually pretty insane. So you can change pretty much everything about your car. You can see on customizing the motorcycle here, customizing from exhausts to rims to lights. You can customize everything. You can even customize the sound of your horn. It's so cool. You can do performance, just everything. It comes down just to the smallest details. You name it, the game most likely has it. You can see even on the monster truck, you can see me changing. You can see all sorts of colors you can make it. There's 11 different types of hoods you can put on your car. 6 different types of front bumpers. There's just insane amount of in-depth customization you can do in this game. It's incredible. I've never played a game with this much customization. You can just change the interior. Like, look at that. You can change the stitching on the seats and the paneling. I just find it really cool how games are starting to incorporate more and more customization as time goes on. We're still waiting on window stickers for Forza, but I'm sure it'll come. There's not window stickers in this game, surprisingly, but I'm sure they're probably going to add it at some point, just because there's so much customization you can do. I mean, I've said customization at least 50 times now, but it's just one of those words where you just can't stop saying it. All right. There are some vehicles which are a little bit limited in customization, like, for example, the planes and the boats. There's not a lot you can do there. I do wish you can change the interior of boats and planes, like, not necessarily change out layouts, but definitely change around color schemes and stuff. I think that would be pretty cool. The next thing we're going to be talking about here is gameplay. Now this is an interesting section because we're going to be talking about controls, unique features, and the quality versus quantity thing that everyone's been talking about for this game. Now, controls. There are some good and bad things that are control-wise about this game. I use a steering wheel on racing games. I don't normally use controllers, so you're not going to hear a lot about controllers, but there are some things to keep in mind if you're going to buy this game. There's some different things that are compared to other games control-wise. So if you're using a steering wheel like me, my favorite thing about controls on the steering wheel is, let's say you're using a car that you're using the clutch with the shifter. You can go ahead and set your controls to manual with clutch, and you can go ahead and use that car. Let's say you want to switch over to like a car with paddle shifters that doesn't have a clutch. It's a semi-automatic. Hop in that. You can use the paddle shifters, not having to use the clutch, and it'll still work the same. The game is smart enough to realize that you're using different shifting inputs, and knowing that you don't really need to use a clutch for that. Another really good feature if you're using the shifter with the clutch, which is, I wouldn't say realistic, but it helps train yourself. Like if you were trying to learn how to drive a manual car, it's not a bad thing to play this game because the way the shifting reacts, let's say you were shifting without the clutch, you would actually pop the car into neutral. The car would just sit there and idle. You won't actually rev or anything until you put the clutch back down and select a gear. It won't do anything. So that actually makes shifting a lot easier to learn on this game if you're trying to learn how to use manual. A feature I'm not a fan of if you're using controller is how you shift. So if you're using manual, normally on games like Forza, you would press B to upshift and X to downshift. On this game, it's RB to upshift and LB to downshift. So they're using the bumpers to do that. I'm not really a fan of that, although it does make it feel like you're using actual paddle shifters in a car, just because the buttons kind of resemble them. But they're just at an awkward position where it's kind of hard to reach if you're accelerating. You have to like switch fingers and it's just a mess. Another feature I don't like about the steering wheel is when you're trying to use nitrous, you have to hit X and the right paddle shifter simultaneously in order to use it, while on the controller you just have to hit the A button. The A button on the steering wheel isn't paired with anything. Like, I don't think it really does anything. So I don't know why they don't just press A and have nitrous activate that way. Because I find that if you're using nitrous, usually when you let go of the right paddle shifter after you're done using nitrous, it upshifts. And if you don't want to shift, then you're just going to have to downshift again, and it's just pointless. Whereas if you were to hit the A button, you wouldn't have to deal with having to mess around with the gears. Besides those little things, the controls are actually pretty easy to use, and they're actually pretty nice. Feature in this game is, if you ever played Forza, I keep going back to Forza, but if you ever played Forza, if you go under difficulty, you'll see that there's two different steering modes. There's normal and simulation. Normal mode basically means it's easier to steer. It's more like of an arcade kind of steering. And simulation is just as real as possible you can get with steering, where if you started trying to overcorrect your steering, the car would like snap in the opposite direction. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's happened a numerous amount of times in the background recording. I'm sure you can tell when that happens. It's fairly hard to control, actually, but I do wish there was an easier steering option for people that don't necessarily like this. Like, I personally don't like this steering where the car just snaps in the other way. I do prefer the easier normal steering like in Forza. Just it gives it more of an arcadey feel to the game. The last thing we're going to talk about in this segment is the quality versus quantity. I'm sure you've heard of it, but this game has one of the largest maps I've ever seen in a game before. And to be honest, it does kind of show that the developers were going for quantity over quality. I mean, the game does have very few problems with loading in everything, and actually very short loading times when traveling between stuff, like fast traveling. But if you zoom in on the map, you can see it's really fuzzy, and stuff like the rear view and side view mirrors just aren't loading. There's just little things that don't have enough detail to them. The pedestrians look a little weird. There's just small things that can just make the game look a lot better. Just to put it in simpler terms, I guess you could say developers just bit off more than they can chew. They just decided to build a bigger map instead of focusing on really fine details of the game that would just make it look super ultra realistic and really, really cool. I mean, the game itself looks really realistic. I mean, it just looks amazing. It's just small things like tree models and hitboxes of things, traffic AI movements, stuff like that. I feel like could be easily dealt with if they just had less space to work with. So final thoughts about this game, and the question, is it worth it? Well, the game is honestly 2 years old now, and I think it goes for around $15 to $20 at most. It's only $15, and even if it was a new game going for $60, I'd say the pros outweigh the cons. I think it is worth it. It's a great game overall. My favorite thing to do in this game is just to cruise around in cars, a really big map, and there's a lot of places to go and drive to, a lot of new places to see. But there's also things you can do like races and events. You can do stunts. You can fly a goddamn plane. What else is there not to enjoy? You can pretty much do anything in this game. I mean, I like to think that it's just a PG GTA 5, so there you go. To be honest, it's very similar. You can own your own garage and stuff. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I'd say it's definitely worth it. There's just a few control things and quality of life changes that I feel like could be done to improve the game a little bit, but overall it is a great game, and I definitely recommend you guys pick this game up. Like I said, it's a fairly old game. It's 2 years old now. You can pick one up for $15 or $20 at most. Very cheap, and it's a great game. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned something about The Crew 2. And I know I did. I learned a lot of this game just by making this review itself, but it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to hit that like button if you want to see more reviews like this. Smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new videos. Ding that bell so you can be the first to be notified. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.